Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of The Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys watching the video today. And today's topic is we're going to be talking about some techniques of how to fish a laydown tree in the fall time of the year, which is one of my favorite type of bass structures to catch fish on. So we're going to give you guys some advice on that. Real quick guys, before we get started on today's video, just a couple quick housekeeping tips. Just want to invite everybody, anyone interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blockett Professional Angler, and just shoot me a private message for the details. And also, since it is fall, please check out our Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns, which is one of the best resources to learn more about any lake that you fish, and I'll put the link in the description for that. So much appreciated. Okay guys, the thumbnail is actually is an example of what I fished last week down at Lake Eufaula at the BFL Regional. That's a typical laydown tree in the fall time of the year. It's a great place to catch fish on. And I sort of want to give you guys some techniques or some tips on how to fish that type of structure, because here's the deal with it. If you've got a laydown tree in any lake that has a good population of bass in it, there's probably a bass living on that tree at any time you go there. It's like whether you catch that fish or not, it's going to be, determined, but there's always fish living on that type of stuff. So if you're in an area that has a laydown tree that has some decent water depth on it, like anything over 2 foot, and maybe you notice some shad in the area, there's going to be a fish on that tree, and you have to tell yourself that, and it's just a matter of how to trigger that fish. Now, there's a couple different ways that you want to fish a laydown tree based upon a specific set of variables. Number one, the water clarity dictates a lot of technique that you have in there. So most of the time, I prefer fishing these laydown trees if they have stained water on them. So I actually like water visibility of less than 2 foot. Seems like more fish use them if you have a little bit dirtier water. And there's two primary ways that I like to fish them in the fall time of the year. Number one is a crankbait, some type of a shallow running crankbait, and number two is a jig. Now, whether they bite a jig or a crankbait, sometimes they bite both of them, but whether they bite one better than the other usually depends on just the mood and the personality of the fish. Some days they're in a chasing mood and they want the crankbait, and some days they don't want to chase and they want the jig or slow bait. So you sort of have to experiment a little bit with both of them. Usually this is the way I fish it. I'll start out by fishing a crankbait, or sometimes even a spinnerbait, but a crankbait is my preference. And I try to parallel the length of the tree. So if the tree's laying at a certain angle, I try to position my boat to one area where I can cast along the side of the tree and bring that crankbait down the side of the tree. Now, I'll do that for 5 or 6 casts or something like that. And then a lot of times after I fish the tree with a crankbait, I'll keep my boat in the same spot, and I'll start casting and pitching and flipping a jig around those same areas, because sometimes those fish may be there and they won't react to the crankbait, but they will react to the jig. Now, the jig's going to work a little bit better if you have two different scenarios. If you've got a tree that is a little bit thicker or gnarlier, say for example a tree that's got a bunch of different limbs on it, or a tree that's got some shady areas on it. So one of my favorite things to do with the jig is if I've got a laydown tree that maybe there's a little patch of shade, hitting the tree, maybe a little bit thicker, complex pieces of limb structure in there, I'll pitch that jig into those areas and then fish the crankbait around, the other limb areas. Another thing you want to do is make sure that you cast well away from any visible limbs, because a lot of times, more than not, is you've got limbs running underwater that you can't see. So make sure that you cast 5 to 10 feet outside of the visible limbs to hit those limbs that are underwater. And really guys, most of the time I catch more fish on those limbs that I can't see, because those fish use that cover a lot because people don't see them and don't fish them as much. And also, if you have a tree that is in a little bit deeper water, say the tree comes off the bank and the bank drops off pretty sharp and the end of the tree is maybe in 8 to 10 foot of water, a lot of times those fish will suspend in those limbs, and you can still catch them on the crankbait maybe 2 or 3 feet down, even if the water is 8 foot deep. In the fall time of the year, they really like to suspend like that. Now, if the water is a little bit cleaner, say you've got water visibility of over 2 foot, one of my favorite techniques is fishing a fluke. I'll take a like a pearl soft plastic stick bait, and I'll pitch it up into the areas with the limbs, and I'll just twitch it around those limbs. And in that clear water, it'll pull those fish out of that tree to hit that fluke. They won't really do it in the dirtier water, but it will in a little bit cleaner water. And also sometimes in a little bit cleaner water, I'll fish a topwater lure, like a walking topwater or a buzz bait, as my first couple casts in there. But probably one of the most important things you can remember when you're fishing a laydown tree in the fall is approach the tree with be stealthy and be quiet, and try to keep your distance away from it, and make sure that you fish the entire perimeter around it, because sometimes you can cast at one angle and not catch anything, and if you turn your boat and come from a different angle, the way the fish is positioned there, it'll bite from a different angle. So when you see a laydown tree in the area, in the fall time of the year, be slow, be stealthy, be methodical, mix it up between a moving bait and a slow bait, and more times than not, you'll figure out how to catch them like that. So hope it helps, guys. We'll talk later.